Feature a veritable who's who.
Roll, laid down the 4 best shots in the first round, but that means nothing now. All those times are wiped out, and everybody has to do it one more time.
It's getting pretty bad there at the end. Hopefully we can do about the same we did the first round.
When you said pretty bad, what do you mean?
The starting line's getting real rutted up. The pit's staying good, but the starting line's going away.
How's S-Kicker performing?
We got the fastest time so far. Hopefully it holds up.
The track has been going away. It may be an advantage for S-Kicker to go first here in the shootout. And he does get it stopped down, but Jeremy Finley doesn't look like a real happy man. That was not an outstanding run, but we just don't know how bad the mud pit is and that starting line is at this point to tell if that's going to hold up. Really wild start. You could see how the front wheel got kicked way up in the air. And here he's starting almost to leave the pit on the side. Jeremy Finley did not seem thrilled with that run. Let's watch him from the side angle, and you're going to see him veer way off to the right as the driver faces the track. And that had to cost him a little bit of time. The S-Kicker and Jeremy Finley, much slower than his earlier run. The distance is covered in 2.089. But we'll find out where that lands him in the shootout because everybody has to lay down a new shot.
Yeah, it feels pretty good considering last night we had some major problems with the motor. We did a lot of work today, changed everything drastically, and it seemed to help. We just got to make a couple small changes and we'll be ready to come back.
What drastic changes did you make?
Oh, we put a new ignition in the car, changed the fuel system completely, and just tried something different to get her to work again.
Amazing what Let's Boogie had to do to make it here into the shootout. Let's see if Tony's made the right changes. It stops in time, and Let's Boogie lays down what he hopes will be a run to put him in the #1 spot. Coming right at you on Super Traxx. Tony Fiore and Let's Boogie. Boy, it seemed like a nice solid run. Stayed right in the middle of the track. Did not have too many problems with the ruts and shuts it down in good shape. Little bit of wheel spin at the line. He didn't really get off as clean as I'm sure he would have liked. I don't know if that cost him much or not. We're going to find out. Here comes the time. At least for the moment, it puts him in first place. Let's Boogie at 2.002 is now the time to beat. Here comes the kid, Matt Ward, out of Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I went out to start line. There was one set of ruts right there to start line. One side was real deep, one side wasn't. So I took to the left-hand side of it to get out those ruts. I think at the start line, I smoked the tires a little bit, and I let off about 5 feet right at the finish line. So I got stopped in time. But it worked out.
Matt Ward, what do you think of the track?
The track? I like the track. It's nice, it's fast track. I think we'll do good in the final round.
We're going to find out because here comes the confident kid, 19-year-old Matt Ward and the Mystic Warrior. Boy, you can see why he had that confidence. That is an outstanding-looking run from Matt Ward. Although, look at his face. He doesn't seem thrilled with it. Didn't seem real excited about it, although to this eye, it looked pretty good. Let's watch the Ford machine coming at you. I'll tell you, he doesn't have many problems in there. Didn't get kicked around by the ruts at all. Got a good start. We'll get another angle at it, see if we can detect anything wrong. Of course, Matt Ward, the kid, is a perfectionist, and he may have thought he could have got a little more out of it. I'll tell you what he did get out of it, enough to take the lead. The time for Mystic Warrior, 1.967. He's got the lead. He can finish no worse than second, but he wants to win. Here's the Mud Patrol and Paul Schaefer.
Well, what I did to the car, the track is getting so rough and bouncy. What we're doing is putting a lot more air pressure in the tires and trying to get the tires to break loose and skid across the top, not hit the holes. When the tire's real low, it bounces down and acts like a shock and it pushes the whole front end up off the ground. We're trying to keep the car level and straight across the mud.
Good lesson in how you set up for the mud racing shootout from the Mud Patrol and Paul Schaefer. Oh my, he barely stopped it in time. The U.S. hot rod officials, though, are saying, yes, indeed, it's a legal run. He did not touch the barrier at the end, which would have DQ'd him. They'll now disconnect the kill switch cables while we wait to see if his time is good enough to beat Matt Ward's 1.967. Let's watch it again. And there's the bounce that Paul was talking about in the interview we had a moment ago. The extra air pressure kept him on top of the mud without sinking in. Was it good enough to get the win? We're going to find out after one more look at the replay. Paul Schaefer and the Mud Patrol out of Portage, Indiana, riding along, skimming across the top. And here comes the time. He needed to beat 1.967. Paul Schaefer and the Mud Patrol, 1.908. It is a championship run for Paul Schaefer and Mud Patrol. He wins it in Providence. The kid, Matt Ward, goes second. Then it's Tony Fiore third, and Jeremy Finley rounding out the Fast Four. There's your winner, Paul Schaefer, coming out of the cab, that 1932 Ford Coupe of the Mud Patrol. He's going to go over and talk to our Steve McDonald about that run today as Mud Patrol takes the victory.
Oh, it's a big win, but Tom Martin got the car ready, and he's been trying new stuff with it, and he's been experimenting, and now I think he's got to go home and change his like he got this. This car is really running good.
Talk about the changes and how they help.
We changed air pressure, shocks, and for the rough tracks. The car's got so much motor from Vance in his engine. They build our race motors, and they got so much horsepower. We've been killing the motors and, you know, cutting the horsepower down.
Strategy going into this one?
Oh, yeah, I had to find a good spot to line up. I didn't know where to line up. It was like 5 different passes out there, and I just picked the right one.
Boy, I'll bet Tom Martin is about ready to just kick himself for turning Mud Patrol over to Paul Schaefer. Tom couldn't lose when he drove it. Now Paul is the one standing in the winner's circle more than anybody else. And how about young Matt Ward? He continues to show the old guys how it's done. He is really a superstar in the making on the mud racing circuit. Still to come on Super Traxx, monster truck racing from the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan. But first, our weekly Super Traxx trivia question. Since we've just thrilled to mud racing action, let's reach before hitting the brakes. The answer is B, 200 miles per hour. Isn't that impressive? 0 to 200 in about 2 seconds. Helps you to understand the driving skills required in the sport. Well, as we promised, Super Traxx takes you to the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan, where 6 awesome monster trucks are trying to blow the roof off the place. The fast qualifier, Snakebite. He's driven by Colt Cobra with a time of 5.15 seconds. That means he gets lane choice all night after a first-round bye. And if you haven't seen this truck, you're in for a real treat. It's one of the newest and coolest looking monsters on the U.S. Hot Rod Association circuit. And isn't Colt Cobra a great name for a monster truck driver? Round 1 is about to get underway, so let's go to Pontiac and Scott Douglas.
Tom, already a big story has developed here in the Silverdome. The Gravedigger is not going to make it to the first round of competition. Want to show you what happened to the Digger in qualifying. Leslie Anderson, the brother of truck owner Dennis Anderson behind the wheel. And there, that metal piece flying out the back, one of the drive shaft loops. Another one falls off at the end of the run. The Gravedigger's done for the night. He'll not be back for the first round of competition.
I broke the main shaft and the transmission, the drive shaft. I put the drive shaft in, but the main shaft is broken, and it'll take me about 45 minutes to change the transmission.
Do you think you'll make it back for the next round? Is that enough time?
No, there's no way I can make it back.
You're out for the evening?
Yeah, I'll be out for the evening.
Very disappointing for Les Anderson, but we've got an outstanding field ready to go as we look at the Goodyear first-round pairings. After Snakebite's bye run, Beast will take on the Master of Disaster. Then Psycho is coming out to take on the Pony Express, and we'll look at Fairly Tame, his first-round opponent, the Keystone Crusher. First up, though, we're going to see the bye run of this guy, the Snakebite, the new hot shot out of Cobra Creek, Colorado. Ross Cooperman and Joe Nunez caught up with Colt Cobra before this run.
Tell us about your monster truck, Snakebite.
Well, let me tell you something, Ross and Joe. I built this truck last year to come out here and compete against these boys and just show them what real monster truck's all about. And let me tell you right now, right lies behind here is a power-beating Ford 557 cubic inch. I've been chasing that green truck over there. I was here in November, and he put me out, and I'm here to stay. I'm going to stake my claim to this Silverdome tonight.
They may not come any cockier than that guy right there, Colt Cobra. He gets a bye run as our fast qualifier in Snakebite. I'll tell you what, you really got to like a guy who comes out and wants to hammer it anyway. With a bye run, all he had to do was roll over the cars and make a legal run and move into the next round. But that's not the way this guy is made. Watch Colt Cobra hammer it right here, getting up and over that first set of cars. And now to take on the second stack of cars. Once again, Colt Cobra sends her skyward. A good, solid legal run with a bye. Snakebite will now move into the semifinal round. His opponent is about to be determined between the Beast and Master of Disaster, who'll be coming out next. One more time with Colt Cobra. He takes those first 3 cars, gets them in pretty good shape, and has a lot of momentum built up for the second stack of cars. And Snakebite lets him see what he's got in the Pontiac Silverdome. A lot of Ford fans in this part of the country, and Snakebite loves showing off for him right here today on Super Traxx. Well, now we get a look at the Beast and the Master of Disaster. They'll go side by side. Our first elimination matchup of the day. From Dayton, Ohio, it's Bob Holman bringing out the Beast, lining up to go up against a Minnesota-based Chevrolet. This is Jim Thomas behind the wheel of the Master of Disaster out of Albany, Minnesota.
What goes into that? If you are a little bit lower on power, what are you reacting to? You're driving over cars and you're going over dirt. Can you tell a little bit more about that?
Just the main thing is getting a good start, getting them off the line, off the starting line.
What kind of a skill does it take to be a driver of a monster truck?
I think you got to be more crazy than anything.
Is that how you would describe yourself?
You bet.
We're going to find out how crazy he is right here, because he's got to let it all hang out as he goes up against the Beast. The win to the Master of Disaster, and Jim Thomas as the Beast is under power coming over that last set of cars. On the replay from the end zone, you can see both trucks slow a bit off the starting line, but then the Master of Disaster able to pick up momentum right here in between the sets of cars, while the Beast had run out of power. And Jim Thomas will get a date with Snakebite in our semifinals a little later on Super Traxx after that victory. A different angle this time on the replay, and you'll see as they go over that first set of cars, that's it for the Beast. He runs out of power at that point. Don't know what went wrong on Holman's truck, but he's done. It's all Master of Disaster on the second half of the course. From Albany, Minnesota, driving the Chevrolet, Jim Thomas wins it in the Master of Disaster. Well, our next first round matchup will send the Psycho trackward against the Pony Express. Gary Schramm, the Psycho driver, talks about Roz Cooperman.
Gary, how'd you get that name?
It's kind of a reputation I've gathered over the years with my other truck. The way I drove and the way I perform, the guys have kind of just called me crazy and idiotic, and it just kind of stuck.
Well, what are some of the crazy things you do with Psycho when you're out on the track?
Well, basically, I do a lot of wheelies, and most of the time what I'm famous for is my backwards wheelie, and I've stood it up on the front end before and balanced it on the nose, not by choice, but when the crowd's there and the people start cheering, there's nothing you can do but really stand on it and please the crowd.
Oh, that's a lot of fun, but here with U.S. Hot Rod Association today, it's pure out racing, and he's got to beat this guy, Anthony Fortier, and the Pony Express. The Mustang lines up at the line. Fortier out of Dayton, Ohio, ready to go up against Gary Schramm, Psycho. No contest at the finish line, although Anthony Fortier, just for good measure, pounds out our finish line pole. But at that point, he had completed a legal run. That is not a DQ. Under U.S. Hot Rod Association rules, you've got to keep 2 wheels, 1 front wheel and 1 back wheel, over the obstacle. And as you'll see at the end of the run, Fortier does have that requirement met. So even though he knocked out the finish line pole, he did nothing illegal. It is a victory for the Pony Express and Anthony Fortier. We'll look at it again. Off the start line, Psycho seemed to lose power, kind of burped there at the starting line. Then he was able to get some momentum going once he cleared the first set of cars. But at that point, it's too late, and the Pony Express Mustang has already got himself a victory. Anthony Fortier moves into the semifinal round. His opponent will be one of these 2 trucks in the next round. Barely Tame, the truck on the left, and the Keystone Crusher on your right. The Keystone